Kia ora and welcome into another episode of the Kiwi Football Fix, where we look at everything New Zealand football. On the show this week, it's everything Wellington Phoenix. In a couple of minutes or so, we'll get to Fast Fred de Jong and we'll talk about the Wellington Phoenix run to the playoff, because I'm pretty confident that they'll be there. So we'll talk about that with Fast Fred de Jong. But first, another all-white striker. He is the man in black and yellow who's leading the line. His name is Ben Waine and he joins us on the Fix. Ben, how are you, mate?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm bloody good. It looks like we've joined you inside the Wellington Phoenix rubber room. Have you been detained or something for bad behaviour?
No, definitely not. Just trying to get a bit of peace and quiet from the apartment.
Hey, when you look at the season so far, to think that you're on the verge of a return to playoffs football for the first time in 2 years, when you look at everything that's happened, the COVID setbacks, the injury setbacks, the absolute stitch-up that has happened in the last few months with the fixtures, how incredible is it and how proud are you of the Wellington Phoenix's efforts to get this close to the playoffs?
Yeah, I think a thing about being a Wellington Phoenix player is it's never easy. And I think if you look at the last 3 years, that it just sums it up really. But no, I'm so proud to be part of this group. And in all seriousness, the way we've adapted over the past couple of years and the way we've adapted this season, with actually being hit with the COVID scenario, then the backlog of games, and for us to be sitting in sixth place with it in our own hands, you take that all day. And just really proud to be part of it.
Can you give us a bit of an explanation, a description of how hard it's actually been at times for you and the team as a whole?
Yeah, I think obviously it starts with having to move away from Wellington again like we did last year. I think it might have been a little bit easier, the fact that we've learned from what happened last year, and we kind of knew what to expect, and the league's looking after us in the way that they've put us up in some actually really nice apartments. So that kind of stuff off the field isn't too much of a worry, but obviously when players start going down with COVID, it's just not easy. You don't know who's going to be next, and obviously we're doing all of our testing, and it starts off with one, and then before you know it, we're missing 2 or 3 games completely. So obviously it's not been easy, and then the seven games in 21, 22 days or something like that is also crazy. But yeah, I think if everyone looks at the way we've performed, obviously there's been some big losses, but those always get magnified, unfortunately, and that's just the way things are. But there's been some really, really key performances and wins, and that's why we are where we are right now.
So Ben, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you've actually faced throughout the course of this season, and how did you get over those?
Yeah, okay, there's been a few, to be honest. Firstly, I think the biggest one was COVID, because we were doing quite well, and then we hit that, I think it was 2 or 3 week period where the majority of the boys were in quarantine, self-isolating, so we couldn't actually play games. So I feel that did kill our momentum a bit, but it's just one of those things where we were in the isolation, just doing simple things like doing your bike workouts, doing your gym workouts, just trying to, like, obviously if you're feeling well enough to just try and get some sort of fitness in, so that when we did come back, we could somewhat kind of take off from where we'd stopped. And then I guess the other one is the amount of games that we've had, and that just kind of probably increased the injury risk and obviously the amount of injuries that we had. But I think the thing for that is all of the boys that have come into the team have put their best foot forward, in my opinion. They were ready, and it's not easy. Sometimes, there's people like Oldie, who's his first year pro, and he's been, sometimes chucked in the deep end against big teams, and I think he's done really, really well, and he's shown maturity in his performances, and he's stepped up to the plate, to be honest. So I think that's obviously helped a lot. But again, just the type of changing room we have, the positive people, the senior boys, the leaders in the team, it's a nice environment to come into every day, regardless of how the performances are going.
And how lucky are you to have a coach, a manager, a gaffer in Ufi Tale, because he is an absolute master of negotiating all of this and making sure that everybody stays positive through these tough times. Tell us a little bit about Ufi's role in managing all of these setbacks.
Yeah, I think you and me were kind of talking off camera before just about being a manager in general and how stressful it is sometimes watching from the sideline. So I can't imagine the stress he's under sometimes. But it's not an easy position for him. I can totally understand that. He's had to deal with the COVID, moving to Wellington, away from his family, then moving back to Aussie when some family is still in Wellington. Um, but he still comes in every day and he makes sure the standards are where they need to be and are high, and motivating the boys. But yeah, he's been really good, and I think he can understand that it's not been easy for players as well.
Yeah, well, Ufi Tele and everybody in the Wellington Phoenix squad has done incredibly well, because here we are, 2 matches left in the regular season and you're on the cusp, on the verge of playoffs football. What of the Wanderers? This is your penultimate game of the season. We saw them at Eden Park just a handful of days ago, really. What's the approach in this game? Because we know that if you secure 2 points, then you're in the 6. So are you gunning for the win in this one?
Yeah, of course, but it's not just the Western Sydney Wanderers. The next two games, Western Sydney and then Melbourne City, we want to win both of those. Obviously, like you said, it's just the 2 points we need, but we're taking this like any other game and making sure we get the 3 points, which will be massive and where we want to be.
How hard is it going to be to secure 3 points, though, against the Western Sydney Wanderers, Ben, when, you know, that game at Eden Park, they basically just farmed possession. They held onto that ball for what felt like the entire second 45 minutes. How on earth do you turn that result around? I know that you got the win, but how do you dominate them the way that they dominated you in those closing exchanges?
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy game. We know that for sure. We know they're going to come out and try and ruin our party, I guess you could say. But I guess looking back on that game against Western Sydney, that was our fault. We were dropping a bit too deep at times, and obviously we managed to grind down and get the win. And sometimes you just have to do that. There's nothing else you can do. But I think what we need to do is, when we are sitting deep like that and we win the ball, it's been talked about just trying to keep the ball a bit better and look after possession, and hopefully that helps us get up higher up the pitch, and then you won't see what was happening in Eden Park, because I know how stressful that must have been. My parents said that was bloody stressful to watch as well.
Maybe another goal for you as well in this Wanderers game coming up, because tell us about that. You know, it was created by your old man, your father, David Ball, and you managed to tap it in. What was that experience like, scoring a goal in front of 15,000 at Eden Park?
Yeah, I've literally just gotten goosebumps thinking about it now. It's something I've dreamed about for a long time, being able to score and play at home. I was obviously a bit gutted when I wasn't in the starting 11, for the game at Sky Stadium, but just to be able to score there and celebrate with the fans, it was just lovely to score for them, because I know it's been a long time for them seeing us win and score goals back on home soil. But yeah, I mean, all thanks to Father Ball for setting me up.
People give you grief about a couple of things. We'll talk about the size of your head shortly. But let's talk about David Ball. Can you confirm or deny that he's your dad?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is my father. I'll have to check the birth certificate though.
Okay, so if he is your dad, does that make Ben Old your uncle? Because I swear to God, whenever I see Ben Old running around on the field from a distance, I reckon it's David Ball.
I know. From a distance, they look alike, don't they?
100%. I'm glad you see it too. It's the strangest thing, man. I saw Ben Old running around and I was like, is that David Ball out there? Oh, hang on, it's Ben Old.
Oh, jeez. He's going to hate that.
Yeah, he will hate that. Sorry about that. Well, let's move on to the size of your head then, because, look, it's pretty massive in the big screen at the moment. But people like Clayton Lewis and Kellen Elliott and others have ridiculed you for the size of your head, and I want to go into bat for you and say that you've got a head of a regular size. And look, to all the nasty people out there, have you got a message for them right now, Ben Waine?
Yes, I do. For all the haters there that have come for my supposedly pea-sized head or brain, there is much, much bigger heads than mine. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are. Yep. And let's just leave it at that. Yeah,
it's done. We've drawn a line underneath it. We move on. And look, I've sort of like gotten away from that whole Eden Park Wellington return. Let's go back there, because that's some good stuff, Ben. The boost of returning home. Yep, disappointment in the first game, happiness in the second, but the fact that you managed to get back home and play some football games, what kind of emotional boost did that give the squad ahead of the playoffs?
I think it's just given everyone you could say a new lease of life, to be honest. Real big energy boost, I think, especially for those Kiwi boys like myself. In Wellington, we were allowed a couple of days to go see family, and even before Auckland, just spend a bit of time with family, catch up. And it's been five or some months, for some boys even longer. I think the things that have come from that are only positive, and it's given us a real boost and a bit of a refreshing feel to come back here and finish the job off.
When you look to the playoffs, Ben, is there any one team that kind of frightens you that you don't want to come up against in week 1 or week 2?
In all honesty, no. Because for me, once you get into that playoff scenario, and obviously fingers crossed we get there, anything happens. It's almost like a bit of a restart. Those games are one-off, and teams can pull out anything. So I think if anything, teams will be looking at us if we make it and thinking, I don't want to play the Wellington Phoenix.
I want to see you guys play Western, simply because you've got their number. You beat them in the FFA Cup, you've beaten them twice in the league. Surely there must be just oodles and oodles of confidence if you were to, let's just say you finish 6th and Western finish 3rd and you get them in week 1, that would just get you, off on the right foot to start the week.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. For whatever reason, we always put a good performance in against Western United, and we've gotten a lot of good results against them this year and last. But like you said, yeah, it might be something where we go, oh yeah, we really want to play them, but also that's when you start getting into issues with complacency. So, regardless of who we play, if it happened to be Western United, I think that would be something that Uffy and the boys would make sure wouldn't slip in. On
the subject of playoffs and just away from the Wellington Phoenix, we've obviously got a massive occasion coming up middle of June against Costa Rica, the All Whites. What conversations have you had with Danny Hay, the coaching staff, about your involvement in that game in Qatar?
If I'm honest, we haven't really spoken too much about that. Obviously, I went to the World Cup qualifiers, and I think for me that was a chance to put my best foot forward. I was personally happy with how I went over there, and I think they were as well. And I really enjoyed working with them. I think we get along quite well. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how people are playing in the moment, and then in these next couple of weeks, who's in form, who's not. So I don't think it's anything more than that. And hopefully, I'm doing the right things to be seen by them. But if not, then head down and back to work.
What was it like to score on debut against Papua New Guinea? That must have been really special.
Yeah, that was really special. I kind of went over to Qatar with obviously the dream of getting my first cap and goal, and I managed to tick both of those off. And I'm glad I could do my part in helping us proceed through that tournament.
As a current player and I suppose you could say a current member of the All Whites squad, what would it mean to you for the All Whites to qualify for a World Cup at the end of the year?
Yeah, kid's dream come true, seriously. I was 9 years old when we went to South Africa, and I remember watching those games and just how well we did, and just the buzz it gave everybody my age in the footballing community. It was just something special to see, and obviously now to be able to go into camp and be next to the likes of Woodsy, Tommy Smith, Winston Reid, who scored a World Cup, and it's just it's hard to explain, and it's a bit weird as well. It's a weird feeling. I didn't think I'd be around those kind of players, but it's so nice to see it, and it would mean the world for me and the whole country to be able to go to another World Cup.
Well, look, good luck for the Intercontinental Playoff if you make it that far, and the World Cup later in the year. But for now, focus on the Wanderers and City and the playoffs with the Knicks. Say good day to your dad, David Ball, for us, and don't be a stranger on the Kiwi Football Fix, Ben Waine.
Sweet, thank you for that, appreciate it.
And from one all-white striker to another, I've managed to locate the fastest Fred I know. His name, Fred de Jong, former all-white striker, of course. And here he is on the Kiwi Football Fix. Fred, how are things, mate?
Yeah, good mate. Not too bad, not too bad.
All right, we've got this a pretty massive matchup for the Wellington Phoenix up against the Western Sydney Wanderers. How do we get 3 points out of this game?
I think take an attacking mindset into the game. I think last time, when you look back over the whole game, it was very tight. The Phoenix, pinched the goal pretty early, 20 minutes in, and then for the rest of the game sat back and defended the lead. And West Sydney Wanderers missed a penalty, hit the bar twice, so they were skating on thin ice, the Phoenix. But I think if they take an attacking mindset into the game, then the opportunities to win the game are obviously a lot higher.
Well, the thing about an attacking mindset, Fred, is that you kind of need the football to attack the opposition. And at Eden Park a number of weeks ago, we didn't have the football for a large portion of that game. So how do they, first of all, get the ball, and second of all, make those attacks count?
Well, I think that is the mindset, because in that game again at Eden Park, it was, we're defending. We're going to drop into this 5-4-1 block, and we'll just hold on to what we've got, and you're just inviting the pressure. We saw that against Melbourne Victory as well, similar sort of defensive shape. But I think if they can, go out with the intent, we are going to match them up for possession. Then then against West Sydney Wanderers, because they're not world beaters, and so I think with the ability and the players that the Phoenix have got, yes, they can get a decent result out of the game.
Yeah, Wanderers aren't world beaters, but yeah, they've got a pretty decent squad, especially through the middle of the park. Ugarkovic, Rodwell, Troisi, etc. Speaking to Sam Sutton before the game got underway at Eden Park, he was saying that the Knicks are going to try and take to the Wanderers on the flanks through Sam Sutton and with Josh Soterio in that strange, unfamiliar wing-back role.
Yeah.
Will they employ similar tactics tonight?
I think they'll try and go wide. And Sutton's been doing very well down one side. I think it also depends on whether Clayton Lewis is fit and starts, because that gives you the opportunity. If you really wanted to, then you could, the ability to hold onto the ball in the middle of the park increases with Clayton Lewis in there, and I think it frees up if David Ball comes back. It frees up David Ball. You can push him further forward. So I think the options there for Ufuk-Talay become more varied, and and that obviously is good from an attacking perspective. Also keeps the opposition guessing a bit more.
When you look at that playoff mix and what the Phoenix may or may not need to achieve a spot, what do they need to get out of this Wanderers game? Do you think it's just a case of make sure you secure 3 points and then who cares what happens in the final match against Melbourne City?
I think the main thing is don't lose. This game. So I think getting a point, or ideally 3, obviously, make it secure. I think it's a big ask for Sydney to catch the Phoenix. So I don't think they're going to. For me personally, I don't think they're going to drop out of the 6. And then it just becomes a matter of okay, are we going to squeak in 6th place, or are we going to push higher and potentially get a home semi-final, which would be a home elimination final, which would be awesome, for the team, because that would be a packed out Sky Stadium and massive game, and gives you the sort of impetus to go a bit deeper into the playoffs. I think ideally, you win the last 2 games and you get yourself into 3rd or 4th. But realistically, I think you're probably looking at 5th or 6th place.
Sydney FC have Melbourne Victory, and we know how red hot Melbourne Victory have been. They play at the weekend. If they manage to steal a win, though, and we've only claimed a point against Wanderers, then we have to claim another point to ensure our safety. So, I mean, how confident are you that we can go to Melbourne City and claim said point, given that they are flying high at the top of the table?
Yeah, but they've also, when you look at Sydney and Melbourne City, they've just come off Asian Champions League. They've played 6 games at a really high level against Korean teams, Japanese teams, top teams out of the Philippines, Vietnam. 6 games in 17 days, I think it is. They've had to travel there. They're travelling back. They've had 3 days rest. So, Melbourne City played Perth. You'd expect them to win that game, and I think that pretty much secures them the premiership. Sydney, they have to beat Victory, then they have to beat Brisbane to get themselves to have any sort of chance of getting in the top 6. I don't think they're going to beat Victory. So I think that's why I think the Phoenix just get a point, and you're probably good as done.
So when you look at the top 6 and we say that the Wellington Phoenix qualifies in maybe 6th spot, who do you prefer? Who would you favour the Wellington Phoenix against? Because there are some strong teams in that mix, Fred. You've got Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, and obviously the Central Coast Mariners just keep on winning and winning. So who do you want them to come up against and why?
Western United. Western United. So ideally the table stays as it is exactly now. We come 6th, they come 3rd, and then it's 3 6. We beat them, but then you got to play Melbourne City in the semi-final, home and away. But I mean, if all and this is the thing with the Phoenix, if they get all their players back, if Lewis is fit, if Soterio's fit, if Hooper's fit, then it's a different team to the one that Ufetale is having to put out at the moment, where when he looks along the bench, he's got a bunch of academy players who have been pushed up into the first team squad, probably prematurely. So I think the extra week or extra 2 weeks is massive for getting those players back. So I think right now, if you're looking at the top 6, you go, okay, Western United would be the team we would favour the most to play against. But having said that, if you're coming in 6th, which is mid-table, right in the, you're 6 out of 12, you can't really pick and choose. You don't have
No,
it's not really your place. It's not really your place.
But, I mean, look, Western would be the ideal opposition. We've beaten them in the FFA Cup. We've beaten them twice in the league this year. And the most recent win was 4-1 just a handful of weeks ago. So I think we can understand why. But they're pressing for a top 2 spot, which is crazy. It's gotten really tight at the top of the ladder all of a sudden.
Yeah, it has. And I think, everyone thought Melbourne City was just going to run away with the league. But they've dropped some points. Melbourne Victory have suddenly come from nowhere. Just 12 games, I think it is, unbeaten, undefeated, or something like that. So they're on a big run. Central Coast Mariners can't lose, so they're on a big run as well. So there's teams that are peaking just at the right time, and I think for the Phoenix, somehow over the next couple of weeks they got to find their mojo again. Whereas they had that patch where they went 8 games unbeaten, played the same 11. If they could get into that sort of groove again, then I think teams won't want to play the Phoenix. But they have to find a bit of that attacking intent that I think they've lost a little bit.
Okay, final ladder position. Do we stay in 6th?
Yes, I think we'll stay in 6th place. I think we'll make the playoffs. I think we'll end up with 38, possibly 40 points. But I think that'll be enough for 6th place.
And just finally, before we let you go, and thanks for your time as always on the Kiwi Football Fix, Fred, how many post-season matches do the Wellington Phoenix play in season 21-22?
I think 1. This year, I think they'll play 1. I think they lack the depth to go deep into the playoffs. If they manage to get up into 3rd or 4th spot and get a home semi, then I'd say 3.
All right. Sounds good. I love the sound of 3. Fast, Freddie. Awesome, mate. Great to see you in your far north batch. Well, not that far north. It's just an hour out of Auckland. Thanks for your time, mate, and enjoy the Wanderers match, eh?
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
My thanks to Fred de Jong and Ben Waine before him. Remember, the Wanderers' next game is later on tonight, and on Monday it's the final game of the season for the Black and Yellow up against the fearsome Melbourne City, 9:05 p.m. Sky Sport 3. Enjoy the football, and we'll see you next week on the Kiwi Football Fix.